And different products can be used by different people. So think of the pollution that I'm subject to, and the pollution Professor Flogaitis is subject to, and the pollution Emilio is subject to. Think of them as different goods, which are jointly produced by whatever industry there is in society. Then if we make believe that these are different goods, then carry on the analysis as if these are different goods, and the same old story goes through. Yes, but there is a flaw in this argument, because apples and oranges are different goods, but different goods have different prices. If I think of the pollution I consume and Emilius consumes as different goods, for markets to work, pollution must have a different price, may need to have a different price for Emilius and for me. So we would have good taxes which correct the public goods problem are individual specific. And individual specific charges are difficult to implement, because not to be implemented, we would have to ask each individual, Emilie, are you the type who's bothered by pollution? In this case, we should compensate you a lot for the fact that you are subject to pollution, and if you are not, we should compensate you less. In this situation, Emilius has no interest in revealing the fact that he dislikes pollution, that he likes or dislikes whatever it is on one side of the market or the other. He would hide his type because he would like to pay the cheapest possible price or pay the lowest possible fine for the good. Now, the theory of public goods in the 60s and 70s became aware of this problem and started constructing all sorts of mechanisms through which individuals would be forced to reveal their types and be subject to the correct regulation, the correct pricing rule. Now, these mechanisms, even though they've been applied in practical situations, the theory of auctions is actually an extension. It is a public good, but okay. Yeah. Yes? That's what turned the lights off? I mean, oh. I'll continue, yes. So, so as I said, these mechanisms for the allocation of public goods, like auctions, did take cognizance of this fact and address it, but they were far removed from the usual taxation, market-based solutions that we are used to. And here I want to conclude with results that have recently, that are now being worked on, which is to say, again, we don't have the information necessary in order to tax different people, different industries differently, and end up with the best, I don't know if best is lowest, but the best amount of pollution in terms of the allocation of resources and the maximization of utilities. Suppose that we are restricted to simple taxation schemes in which all industries are taxed at the same rate, or all goods are taxed at the same rate, irrespectively of whether they are the technology producing them is polluting or not polluting. Nevertheless, and that's the message that I want to leave you with, even though simple, anonymous, everyday type of taxation is not sufficiently rich as an instrument to produce optimal, perfect outcomes, it still improves upon what unregulated markets do. The taxation of commodities, even the taxation or the intervention in markets compatible with what is feasible, even though this intervention is not a tool, I repeat, adequate to produce the best of all possible situations, it still is sufficiently powerful to produce results which improve on what naive laissez-faire produces. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I don't know.
Very violent up and down.
I guess, thank you very much. I guess, Professor Polemarchakis, that now it is better that you step down, and when we have the panel discussion, you come up again. May I, Emilios, is this the right thing to do? I just asked Professor Polemarchakis to step down now, and then he will come up for the panel discussion. And now, right. Now I would like to invite Professor Yiannis Varoufakis, who, after a long and successful career in Britain, came to participate in our Faculty of Economics in the University of Athens. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you so much.
I believe it is very nice to talk to an audience
atmospheric conditions.
Candlelight
quite romantic.
Atmosphere. It's romantic. Thank you for accepting to do so. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. Over the past 300 years, ladies and gentlemen, humanity has succeeded in pulling itself up by the bootstraps, establishing wondrous scientific projects, and creating the technology and production lines that allowed us a glimpse of a bright future liberated from want. However, more recently, the same path has led us to the edge of a precipice from which we are staring into a hideous abyss. The key to rapid growth was a word beginning with C: commodification, the conversion of goods into commodities and their mass manufacture for profit. With the determination of an unscrupulous invader, for 300 years the market has been colonizing more and more realms of human activity. It created new assets, like ingenious new forms of debt, and it fully conquered the manufacture of things. Then, more recently, it penetrated areas that it was ill-equipped to treat with the due respect. It crossed several bridges too far. As we have already heard in this auditorium last night and earlier on, commodification entered the microcosm, altering the DNA of organisms in order to claim property rights over them, over creations of age-old evolution, of rainforests, of long-lived communities of farmers. Soon, commodification will take over, as we heard yesterday, the moon, even the sun, if it can. Once its greatest weapon, however, property rights. Property rights are the greatest weapon, an essential lever for commodification. Once property rights could no longer be defended by means of erecting good, strong, tall fences, and they started requiring innovative, complex, stochastic contracts, humanity entered new, treacherous, uncharted territory. In 1991, our own generation was taken aback by one surprising major upheaval: the collapse of a non-market, authoritarian, satrapic type of industrial society, the death of which proved that markets for well-defined material things are indispensable. For colorful clothes, desirable cars, decent cups of coffee, gizmos that open up new landscapes of pleasure, markets cannot be second-guessed. 1991 unveiled Karl Marx's error. To each according to her needs, makes for a gray existence, and moreover requires that somebody else is entrusted with the role, the task of second-guessing what these individual needs are. Alas, at that moment, at the moment of the market's final triumph in 1991, rumors of history's passing were greatly exaggerated. The vengefulness of markets was biding its time. It unleashed itself 17 years later, 2 years ago, in 2008. Capitalism, the ultimate C word, came belly up 2 years ago. State power came to its rescue. But what we now have, I submit, in this exciting post-2008 phase of our history is not capitalism. Arguably, we live under a new kind of regime, which we may call bankocracy, or to Hellenize it or Greekicize it, trapezocracy. Just like 1991 unveiled Marx's error, 2008 exposed Adam Smith's. The great C process, the commodification process, the commodification drive, gave rise to a sorry litany of C words that have darkened our prospects and have been browning our planet. Credit crunch, carbon, Copenhagen. The past 2 years have destroyed our collective and individual fig leaves. From now on, business as usual would be a fast track to a multifaceted ruin. Today, society is breeding a troubled generation, the generation of the tens, created by 2008, just like the generation of the 30s was created by 1929. A generation with nothing to look forward to but a browning humanity. We are in the throes of a crisis of our own collective making, which cries out for a collectively argued, reasoned, and implemented solution. This is the juncture we find ourselves at now. But what kind of solution can we fashion? How can we rise to the occasion, bringing about catharsis rather than catastrophe? I submit that yes, we can opt for the former against the latter. As someone said, yes, we can, some time ago, before he forgot about it. But not unless we tackle some awful demons first. Let me be more precise on Adam Smith's error that 2008 unveiled. Yes, as I said before, markets are indispensable for producing and distributing things. But it is awful at creating and distributing ill-defined assets. When humanity leaves to the market assets like real estate, human labor, collectively produced knowledge, finance, debt, our genetic makeup, rivers, lakes, the great oceans, the atmosphere, the environment in general, we are courting catastrophe, leaving it to the market. And when society tries to overcome market failures by creating more artificial markets, it elevates the problem onto a higher level at which it becomes more problematic, more pernicious, more dangerous. The end result at the present moment in history shows that we end up with not just greater inefficiency, but also with more illiberty, or if you want, less liberty. We ended up today living in a world in which nothing pays like grand failure. Wall Street and the City of London are just one example. There are many more. I think Marx would have had his revenge when he realized that this is the motto we live under today. I'll give a number of examples that seem to be at odds with one another, but I feel that they fall under the same heading. Real estate. Do I need to say more? I won't. Finance. Commodification and unfettered financial markets pushed finance's share of United States income from a mere 4% in 1971 to more than 40% in 2007. It also inflated the values of derivatives, which are, as Herakles said, taken on face value as instruments for ensuring against crop failure or low demand. They're excellent tools, but as we all know, excellent tools can have appalling uses. The value of derivatives in 2000 was $70 trillion globally. In 2007, it was $700 trillion. To put it simply, the planet was just not big enough for the size of the world of free market finance.